functions versus relations. Let's see, we've got a whole bunch of vocabulary here. We've got the domain. It's a set of all the x values or input values in a relation. When you write a domain, you put these squiggly brackets. You'll list out the domain values and then close your squiggly brackets. Those squiggly brackets are, in other words, saying the set of these numbers. That's how you would read it, those squiggly brackets. Then you have the range, is the set of all the y values or output values in a relation. Now, one thing that used to be useful for some students was to remember the Dr. XY always carries his ID. So that's representing domain range. That goes with your X or your Y. And then this is independent dependent. So Dr. XY always carries his ID, and you line up so you remember which one's the domain, which one's the range. Just throwing it out there in case you want to use that. Next, we have relations. Relations are a set of ordered pairs, and here's how you would write this out. Remember, the squiggly brackets are read as the set of these ordered pairs. Functions are special relations in which one element of the domain is paired with exactly one element of the range. In other words, no x's can repeat in a function. So these are some different ways you'll see your functions and relations. Okay, so let's take a look. First one, we have a set of ordered pairs. Now, one thing I always would tell my students, if you had paper, would be to go through and circle all of your x values. And I suggest to do this because sometimes the numbers are so crowded together that it blends in. So if you circle the values you're supposed to be paying attention to, it's helpful. So notice, this is a function because no x value repeats. When I go over here, I circled all of my x values, but if you notice, it has two negative ones in the x place, and then there's also two 2's. And since the x value is repeated, that means it is not a function. That's what it would look like on an ordered pair. Now when you go to the table, so for the table, I always like to maybe highlight, but if you could, so I would focus just on my x column, looking at those x values, -5, -4, -3, -2. No x value repeats, so this is a function. You go over here on the right side, looking at the x values, and there's a 1 here and a 1 here. So since two x values repeat, since there are two of the same x values, this is not a function, so it's just a relation. Now for a mapping. Mapping is a little crazy with all this crisscrossing, but here's what you need to always focus on. You're just focusing on the x side. So sometimes I would cross, or if I could cover it up with my hand, maybe you could do that to your screen. Just cover up the other side so you only focus on the x values. Now, notice the line. There's only one line coming out of the 10. There's only one line coming out of the 20, one line out of the 30, one line out of the 40. So when there's only one line coming out of each x value and there's no x values repeating, then that means it's a function. So when I look at the other side, again, I'm going to just focus on my input, my x values, and you can see right here at the 2, there's more than one line coming out of the 2. If there's more than one line coming out of the 2, this really is written as an ordered pair. You would put it together as 2 and 20. See how the line connects the 2 with the 20, but then the 2 also connects with the 40. So that's how you would list out the ordered pairs for a mapping, if that's easier for you to tell if it's a function or not. And last, we have a graph. So you can watch through the video for a graph. I will just quickly show you some drawings for example. So like if I had a graph with a line on it, well, not a line, that's so I have an image on it, because sometimes it could be a face, they might throw a triangle on there, whatever it is. So now to tell if a graph is a function, you perform a vertical line test. And hopefully you remember vertical is straight up and down. Okay, so I'm going to do the vertical line test. Drawing a line straight down. Notice that vertical line only went through the picture one time. No matter where I go on the graph, it only crosses through that image one time. So now I'm going to draw a similar image. Just turn the other way. And when I do the vertical line test, the vertical line test passes more than 1 point in the picture. So if it passes through more than one time, it is not a function. You can see on the screen where that guy's hand is, if I drew the vertical line test, this goes through twice. On this one, same thing, goes through twice. If I have, here's one other one that I know I've come across before. It's a little tricky. So if I had a graph that was straight, okay, here's my graph. If I had a line that was straight up and down, or if I had a graph where it was straight horizontal. So let's see, if I do my vertical line test on this one down at the bottom, it only goes through 1 point. Okay, so this is a function. The other one, if I do a vertical line test, well, notice that whole vertical line is on top of that picture, which means it's going through that picture an infinite number of times, so it is not a function. Okay, so your focus when you're deciding if something is a function or not are the x values. The x values cannot repeat. The y's can repeat all they want, but the x's cannot repeat. And then on the graph, the vertical line test, it should only pass through the picture in one spot. Good luck.